Welcome to the BuyBox Experts podcast. We bring to light the unique opportunities brands face in today's e-commerce world.
Hi, I'm James Thompson, one of the hosts of the BuyBox Experts podcast. I'm a partner with BuyBox Experts and the former business head of the Selling on Amazon team at Amazon, as well as the first account manager for the Fulfillment by Amazon program. I'm the co-author of a couple of books on Amazon, including the recent book, Controlling Your Brand in the Age of Amazon. Today's episode is brought to you by BuyBox Experts. BuyBox Experts takes ambitious brands and makes them unbeatable. When you hire BuyBox Experts, you receive the strategy optimization and marketing performance to succeed on Amazon. We also help investors with due diligence services. Go to buyboxexperts.com to learn more. Before I introduce our guest today, I want to send a big shout out to the team at Disruptive Advertising. For off-Amazon advertising, Disruptive Advertising offers the highest level of service in the digital marketing industry. Focusing on driving traffic, converting traffic, and enterprise analytics, Disruptive helps their clients increase their bottom line month after month. Check out disruptiveadvertising.com to learn more. Our guest today is Stefan, CTO and Marketplace Advisor to Foundry, a firm that focuses on buying and building incredible Amazon businesses. Prior to Foundry, Stefan was a 16-year veteran at Amazon, where he helped lead several executive teams, including seller tools, sales technology, and customer experience teams. Stefan, welcome, and thank you for joining us today on the BuyBox Experts podcast.
Thank you, James. It's great to be here.
So you and I both had the opportunity to work at Amazon under Sebastian Gunningham, the former SVP in charge of worldwide marketplaces. I remember Sebastian challenging all members of his extended team to set up their own third-party seller accounts on Amazon, so every one of us could learn what it's like to be a seller on Amazon. I set up one of those accounts and I found out it was a lot harder than I thought. Sure, the marketplace was huge, but the competitive forces in play were very, very challenging. I'm curious to start our discussion today by asking you what draws you to the space of buying and operating private label brands, given the day-to-day operations are arguably harder than holding a leadership role at Amazon.
Well, Sebastian Gunningham was an amazing leader, and his customer obsession is evident as he challenged everybody to do it themselves, to roll up their sleeves. And it worked out for me as I built different features on Seller Central or architected Seller Central that I challenged my team or did myself. Before we even think about a line of code, call at least 2 or 3 sellers, ask them what they think of the idea. How would it change their business? Or even better, I found myself spending time. I would just donate a day and go work alongside a seller or watch them. That was better than working. And you saw all the click things took or all the inputs that was required.
Yeah.
And that might be more work. But you also saw the opportunity to do 2 things. You saw the opportunity to bring new products to market and the power of leverage that it has for businesses to expand much beyond their region and out to multiple regions of the world. And so the entrepreneur opportunity and the opportunity to really see the passion of founders. I think I got a taste for small business when I worked at small business in high school, and then seeing people build businesses in small businesses. I find it exciting to be working alongside founders and to be working in their business, enabling and bringing them to the next level.
So FBA private label businesses are a hot commodity today. What do you think has happened to generate this recent interest in these businesses that have been around since the beginning of the Amazon marketplace nearly 2 decades ago?
Yeah, the emergence of private label aggregators, you're probably keeping a scoreboard, but it's one of those things. It's like the old McDonald's sign. I think they update the number every morning. 4 dozen, 5 dozen, 6 dozen, get a few dollars, go buy a business. And I do think, things will shake out at time as people learn the work. It's real work, and you need to have people who are operators. If your shipment's held up at a dock, how do you pick up the phone or how do you work around that? So is not to underestimate there. But I think, as other people have said on this podcast, that, we're reaching a point where e-commerce and the shift to e-commerce and the opportunity for businesses to grow to a size where people can start to see their value. We're taking an age-old business model of brand aggregation, and now we're applying it to brands born online. So Amazon's our first focus, and we're able to see how this model is going to work online. And businesses have caught the attention by their size and people are shopping. So they start to see these things. They see them day in and day out as durable brands.
I've got all these brands asking me questions around, is now the time to sell? Should I be thinking about talking to these companies that are looking to invest in companies like mine? Let me ask you, what do you think is going to happen in the next couple of years that will allow us at some point to say, are things starting to mature? Are we seeing enough aggregators that, the landscape is going to be stable for a while? Or do you think that these FBA brands are going to be able to continue to have more and more choices of investors jumping in to look at buying their businesses?
I think the differentiation is going to start to emerge more. Right now, it's early days, and the playbook, for all of them is pretty straightforward.
Mhm.
There may be minor differences, but what are your acquisition criteria? Are you picking right? Are picking companies that have legs and brands that have potential, or have they already peaked? Right, because the marketplace on Amazon can come and go. And then, do you have the skills and ability to actually operate and grow them? So there will be a day of reckoning at some point, where you see, aggregators who can they really grow these businesses? Can they operate them and grow them? When the tailwind of e-commerce growth isn't as big, that will be a differentiator. What's your growth ability? And then I think the additional, it's 18, 36 months, do you want to trust your brand, trust it to somebody who can help grow it? And then what's going to keep happening with brand? Is it going to be a product line? Is it going to be are different aggregators or different brand businesses going to get beyond just the Amazon marketplace? Are they going to get into really a brand building customer engagement business? You can see that differentiation from aggregators, and you'll start to see people sort out, right? Some of these aggregators don't have a ton of money in the bank, right? 25 million or a smaller amount of capital may help you get started, but then you really are needing to grow to keep driving your acquisitions. So there will need to be a flywheel where aggregators are also, how are they driving the flywheel of creating new brands to build, either because they're doing them or
Right.
they're provide services to founders to keep spinning up a foundry pool.
Once upon a time, Amazon was an exciting destination for folks that said, I'm going to go build my own private label brand because there's all this cheap manufacturing capacity out there. What do you think is going to happen over the next couple of years as some of these investors get more sophisticated and do start building out their own brands, and they're now actually competing with the very types of companies that they otherwise might have been acquiring today, but 2 years from now they're competing directly with?
I think you're ambitious to think it's going to be 2 years, or optimistic. As you started, there's a lot of work in solving supply chain trouble, or solving supply chains and making them efficient, getting a product development process up where you can start recognizing customer opportunities and demand. But let's say whether it's 2 years or whether it's 5 years, it does
Sure.
start to happen, right?
Sure.
Part of my thinking and part of Foundry's thinking is, as we invest in founders, we want them to participate. And at some point, their business grew to a point that, whether they're spending more time on operating and they really love product development, or they started this business to spend time with their grandkids and create some portability for their family. Now they're spending a ton more time because it went well and they're growing.
Right.
So I think, what we want to do is help our founders spend more time on what they want to do. And if it is, just go back to something else, or if it's go focus. And I think the aggregators and I think the brand companies that start to find ways to scale and find ways to contribute more to the ecosystem. Right now, the flywheel is pretty narrow. It's find brands to buy them and grow them.
Yep.
But I think you're going to find more cogs come up in the flywheel. You're already starting to see them emerge. What financing can we do? How do we do invention? Right? Even the investment in 3P at Amazon is because there's a lot more sellers than 1P partners at Amazon, and so sellers can do more. There's going to be more founders. So I think aggregators that facilitate that founder flywheel for those who want to keep inventing. I don't think it goes away.
So there are a lot of companies looking to be purchased right now. And when I think of the conversations I've had with some of these FBA aggregators, they're literally seeing hundreds of inbound inquiries a week of companies saying, pick me, pick me. I'm curious how your company thinks about the process of evaluating firms, whether it's inbound, whether it's outbound. How do you find those firms that make sense for you, and how do you do that efficiently?
The As you've talked to a number, and I've listened to several of those podcasts or talked to some of those groups myself, there are certainly brokers out there, and that's certainly one way to move people around or to see who might be available.
Right.
But I think the thing that I look at, or that our team looks at, is we come with a fair amount of Amazon expertise. I've been looking at seller growth and factors of seller growth and what causes seller growth for a decade plus now.
Yep.
We got to play on the detail page, right? And run the Amazon detail page for some time. And again, look at what drives conversion, what drives e-commerce growth. So we certainly look at some of the same data points that I think the other people you've talked to, but we also look at in contrast as what's happening on the Amazon marketplace, what's happening on other marketplaces, to where we can predict or we can take an assessment at, does the seller have growth potential? Do we think does this brand have growth potential? Do we think it's attractive to customers? And do we think that's going to happen over time? And look at the data points to do that. And then do we think they're a good mix to our portfolio? Mm-hmm. Or do we think that they might be better served somewhere else?
What does portfolio management mean today? Because right now, when I look across different aggregators, some of them are buying every kind of category of product you can imagine. Some of them are saying, well, we prefer more of the hard lines, and some of them are still trying to figure that part out. You're at a stage where you've got a lot of options in front of you. How do you see the process of making sense of all these companies and building internal expertise when you literally could buy companies in any number of categories?
And you certainly see that behavior, right? It's sometimes interesting to me. Maybe it's a party game to look at some of the other sales, some of the other groups, some of the other brand groups, and try to see if I can guess their acquisition strategy. Some of them seem to make it really hard. I'm not sure why they bought that brand. I used to work with that brand back at Amazon, and that's seems out of mix with their portfolio. When we're looking at buying brands and we're looking at working with founders, it's a mix of founder brand. We want to see that there's opportunity to keep growing the brand, as you've talked about. And so, additional inventory is a supply chain issue, is an inventory forecasting issue. Are there levers that we can work with the brand in our portfolio? And do we see some potential? So in a portfolio, advertising spend, those brands may not need to be super connected, right? To start applying some efficient processes or changing how you do your advertising spend. But on inventory or on D2C, if you're looking to use some of those levers, the products may need to be more similar. So, part of our team, one of our founders has built from scratch multiple brands, not on Amazon. They have an Amazon business now, but including D2C and going into retail and from production and brand on up. And the ability to understand how packaging is going to work and rebranding. And that's how I think the portfolio management comes to play is, are you choosing a strategy that is going to require efficiencies from brands that have overlap or have either similar supply chains or similar packaging? And that's where we look at clusters, because we do want to find some of those efficiencies and use that as part of our portfolio management. I think the second thing about portfolio management that I don't hear talked about as much is size, right? As you and I both know, as you get bigger on Amazon and become a bigger seller, the rate of growth decelerates, or it can become a little bit harder. Not everybody's an anchor that keeps shooting up there.
Yeah.
I think there's also looking at portfolio management of what size of acquisitions are you trying to bring into your group? And if there are bigger brands that you're bringing into your portfolio, how do they accelerate the rest of your portfolio? Is it platform and infrastructure? Is it people that came with the brand? Or does it open does it bring on customers that are familiar with that brand that you can then do some additional marketing of your other brands with?
So let's shift gears and talk about the brands themselves. What kind of best practices would you like to see more private label brands pursue before they actually go down the path of trying to hawk their business for someone to buy?
I've worked in the last few months with several offline businesses getting their business ready, founder-led businesses or family businesses that are physical, not on Amazon. So that's been present in my mind lately. And I think I don't know if I have anything new to add. Are your accounts in order, right? Are your finances clear? right? Are you, do you have a good accounting system? Have you done reconciliation? If you're 100% Amazon, that may be easy. If you have some amount of off Amazon, have you accounted for that? And have you accounted for your risks and costs? Be clear with your potential partner up front that what your potential risks and costs are. Risk could be, how many claims have you had, or where do you see exposure, or if you've had a recent supplier shift. That's going to impact your potential risk level with your partner. So, keeping clear on what the finances are. And then I think the second thing, the thing I wish I saw more of was a little bit more documented process, right? When we work at Amazon, you're always thinking about growth and you're thinking about scale. So transactions and events are always looked at in context of, is this normal, the new normal, or was this actually an outlier? And what I found in working with some of the smaller businesses is they tend to view a lot of the events as just events and as outliers, rather than an indicator of, because our business is getting bigger, this is going to happen more often. Let's build a way to handle this. Connected to that as well, and having processes documented, or just how things work, is there's a lot tied up in founders' heads. Right. And so it will take time to kind of go, oh yeah, that's how we always did. I forgot on Thursdays, we always went in and checked the screen and then sent an email to remind our supplier to get the shipment out.
Conversations I've had with several entrepreneurs who are looking to sell, that they want to get to the point where they sell their business, they can walk away fairly quickly. And to your point about standard operating procedures, a lot of this stuff isn't documented. And so if everything's sitting in the head of the founder or one particular employee who may not be part of the transition team, how do you make sure the new owners can take that process on and do it in a way that at least they know what the baseline expectation is? They may make improvements, but getting that stuff documented, if you're a big, complicated business with lots of selection, lots of different subcategories, lots of suppliers, that becomes a lot of work to do long before you go to market. Getting all that stuff documented and organized, and realizing that someone else is going to read through this and say, well, that's a cockamamie way of doing things. We probably should streamline that a little bit before we have to turn this over to someone else.
Yeah, you can get confused between just writing down and documenting what do you do and what is, just to make the clock run, versus getting sucked into, oh, we can make that better. We can make that better.
Yeah.
Right? So, I used to have a boss at Amazon. I was, hey, there's lots of things broken. And if people could see behind backstage, they'd be like, wow, how does the show even happen? So as someone's taking over your business, you are inviting them backstage, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to see the mess. And light is a sanitizer as you shine lights on things, but you have to decide, is this a hole that's going to sink us or not? And so I think there can be some nervousness of like, hey, if we show them the backstage, the deal might not go through. And so I would say first, just in the process of getting ready for sale, that's an inspection that will help you improve your business. And you should make notes of what could be improvements and decide if you want to do them, if they will be impactful at the right time. So separate the time to fix from the time to document. And then I think, this is where I think the differentiators between brand aggregation businesses will start to come through, because if that founder's gone, they've gone on a vacation because they've been working hard, and there's no cell phone service in the boundary waters of Minnesota.
Sure.
Brand aggregators who either have a service provider or it's one of the things we have at Foundry, have some baseline best practices, right? Our acquisitions team and our integration team has onboarded hundreds of seller businesses and brand businesses into Amazon and their role at Amazon. Mm-hmm. And so we have some muscle memory, one, to also detect, because brand founders don't know what they don't know. They've seen their business. They may have seen a few others. We've seen dozens of businesses. Right. So we may also see some process improvements that way, but it also gives us some best practices that we can fall on and say, well, until we know more, we'll try this and at least give a baseline.
One of the things that I've been fascinated with going through doing due diligence for a number of these companies, whether it's for the brands or for the investors looking at the brands, when you go through and look at so many businesses that are Amazon centric, you basically have a product that foundationally may be fairly similar to many other products, but they have strong social proof. They may have good enough inventory management to stay in stock, and they have reasonable enough margins that they can buy a bunch of traffic and make sure that there are eyeballs looking at their products. And yet, when you look at it at a foundational level, what does it mean to build a brand? What does it mean to engage with consumers? What does it mean to solve a problem that consumers can't otherwise solve? A lot of brands, online or offline alike, don't necessarily do a good job of doing that. And so my question to you is, what does it mean to be a meaningful brand on Amazon? Do you need to be a meaningful brand, or are you basically a social proof engine that has a bunch of ad budget?
I don't know if I can get too philosophical and wait, I should say that right. Too philosophical and meta on, what does it mean to be a brand? But I do think it's not a very crisply answered question, right? As I've talked to, you talk to the brands, but you even talk to the brand businesses. It's not a McKinsey answer of measiness to say a brand is this and has these attributes. So certainly the way I see it is at minimum, it's a connected set. It's a product line. It's a connected, cohesive set of products that meet features. On Amazon, brand durability may be a little easier to unseat than when you have some of the physical brick and mortar moats, right? It's a lot easier to get shelf space on Amazon. Right?
Yeah.
You get distribution. You didn't have to negotiate with somebody. It's just there. It's just an ad budget. But I do see differences, and I saw this on how differences on how brands pay attention to customer repeat purchase or customer engagement signals. Are you monitoring? I'll talk about listing optimization quick a minute. Just because I spent a lot of time in detail page.
Yeah.
There's a lot of brands who come in and they set their product bullets and forget it. All right, I put my product images up and forget it. Versus, if you think about it like a physical store, you'd rarely set up a physical store where you'd stock the shelves and make a little showcase and then walk away, or never change the front showroom window, right? And you're missing out on learning customer signals. If you get a bunch of reviews, and a lot of these brands love looking for reviews, or you get some ask questions, you now have hundreds of words on a part of the page that a minority of people may go to, as less people scroll down and start at the top.
Yep.
You have signals that you're bringing back to your product bullets, right? Customers were looking to understand more about your brand and product. Did you bring it up to where the customers are? Right? No, because you said it and forget it. So I think the first step to me is, are brands paying attention to customer behavior? And I would want to see brands, pay attention to customer behavior as something that makes them a little more of a brand versus a products company.
Right.
And then whether you choose to do that off Amazon and really make a brand story and say, where are my customers? And should I look at them not only on the marketplace where they come to me, but should I start looking at where they are elsewise and connect with them as a brand? So that'll be just like we're applying an offline brand model to brands born online by doing brand groups and aggregators. I do wonder where the overlap will start to creep in of other brand best practices and brand building that occurs offline. Will we start seeing founders have snippets in a Shark Tank way? Right? Here's our story. Let me tell it. Right? Will we start to see media snippets, in like some of the Discovery TV show ways, right? When we see kind of those personas develop. I don't know. But I think to be a durable brand, definitely paying attention to customer behavior in some form is key. And that's part of what makes it, people have a connection. Like I have a brand connection, not just I like the product.
So you talked earlier about this influx of new aggregators and investors on a daily basis. Talk to me about Foundry Brands. What are you looking to do to differentiate yourself from everybody else out there? If I'm a brand looking to sell, why would I want to come and talk to you versus going to talk to 40, 50 other companies?
Yeah, we're excited in Foundry Brands. We talk to a lot of the other brand aggregators on the market. Some of them, maybe some of them called us, and that was, a privilege. But we talked to a number of folks out there. And the first thing we saw is on a funding level. We've closed a large round of funding that puts us in the top tier of a large round of equity funding that puts us in the top tier of brand aggregators. And that gives us some flexibility to look at different company sizes that we can acquire. I mentioned company size. It was not an accident. Company size is one way to think about our portfolio and lets us move quickly in this market. Also lets us participate faster in technology building, whether it's technology partnerships with some of the best in class and best whether it's agencies or whether it's other software developers out there, so that we can serve our brands, and then focus our technology spend on things we think are pretty brand specific. So one of the things about Foundry is we're excited about our capital position that lets us kind of jump into the fray, but also jump to the front of the bus. Back. I think the next thing about Foundry is, our founding team, myself and my time at Amazon, Kyle Walker with his time at Amazon, Tom Shipley, who's built multiple brands and been in the thick of it, Matt Rhodes, who's done a number of deals. Between the four of us, we talk a lot about grit and being operators, right? Helping, we've taken those phone calls at 2 a.m, because I'm the on-call, and some sellers like, I've got a seller F2, my account's been shut down. Or it's like, my packaging guy. We've been on those phone calls. We've been in the trenches, both with Amazon, other D2C companies. And so we know what we're getting into, but we also can step alongside because we've been there. And work with our founders. So we're excited on that part, to know what they're going into and to be able to help them scale and succeed. So that's the short version about Foundry. We're excited to look at a large set of brands across a number of sizes from our capitalization and technology part. And then we're excited to bring operational expertise to bear with the Foundry, with the partners that we work with.
So what's going to be the role for most of these founders whose companies you buy? Do you see yourself keeping a lot of them as part of the team? Do you see them, moving off to, as you say, the lake area in Minnesota? What's going to be the role of those folks who have built these businesses?
I think to some degree it's going to be up to the founders, but it's partly up to the founders because we see this transition of their business as a relationship, not a transaction. Right. So if we respect the work, the forging, stick with the Foundry metaphor. Yep. The forging process they did to get their brand going. We know the lessons that they learned and the expertise they developed in doing so. And we respect that. We'd love to have them invest that back within the Foundry, within our Foundry organization. But we want to help them get back more focused on what they value, whether that's family, finances, or their next product build. So we see it as a relationship. It's early days for us. So, we'll invent what that's going to look like for specific founders and for founders. But our goal is that we keep a relationship with the founders and at Foundry, that they're proud of where we take their brand and that they see opportunities to continue participating with us, from the finances of their deal to cheering their brand or participating in building their brand or others.
What's going to make your business successful in the long run?
For us in the long run, there are the ABCs, right? Like a number of folks, we're going to pick the right brands. We're going to pick good brands that we think have growth potential, and we're going to grow them efficiently and cross markets. And we're going to pay attention to customers and how customers are reviewing our brands. And we're going to build processes that both technology and analytics that drive automation. And then our people are going to lead that, and we're going to get people behind the brands we bring to market.
Stefan, I want to thank you for joining us today on the BuyBox Experts podcast. For those of you interested in learning more about Foundry Brands, please visit foundrybrands.com. And now to finish today's podcast, I'd like to share some final thoughts. For third-party sellers to be successful on Amazon, a critical lever will be soliciting feedback from customers. We at BuyBox Experts are really big fans of the team at Ecom Engine and its tools that help Amazon sellers to simplify the process of messaging customers of Amazon orders. To learn more, go to ecomengine.com. And with that, I want to thank you for listening today, and I look forward to joining you next time on the BuyBox Experts podcast.
Thanks for listening to the BuyBox Experts podcast. Be sure to click subscribe, check us out on the web, and we'll see you next time.